Hello Internet, so nice to see you. I have a great question on interval inversion.
May I know why we do 9 minus x? I mean, it's to find new intervals, but why 9 instead of 8? I hope my question makes sense, and why is it necessary to find new intervals?
Those are fantastically good questions. I'm gonna start from the end and get to the beginning because that's the best way to answer. First question is, the last question is, why we invert intervals? And if you think about it for a moment, this is a fantastically good question because it's a question that nobody ever asks. Everybody opens their book, they read, there is this thing called the interval inversion, and then they just learn how to do it. And they never think, why should we even invert an interval? Because, and there is a good answer, because this helps us write more music. Okay, it's a very specific thing. Okay, so let's say at a certain point you are playing a chord progression or something. Okay, like it doesn't have to be complex. I'm just playing a C, G, C. It doesn't have to be complex. I want to use a simple example. And we have this C, G, C, and it's such a basic idea that you will be hard pressed to think, how can I continue that? How can I play more music that is similar to this? I can continue my song. But that's why inversion exists. What am I playing here? Now it's important to see exactly what am I playing. And again, this is a very, very basic example, not even really that good sounding, but you have to understand this on a very basic case so that you see exactly what's happening and you can apply to more complex situation. Because what I'm playing is this. That's a tablature, not a score, by the way. Okay, just want to show what's happening on the guitar. And I'm playing those notes here, 3, 5, 5. That's a C note, and an E note. And then I'm playing 3, 4, 3. That's a G note, that's a B note, that's a D note. So my chord here is C, my chord here is G. How do I write more music in this style? And one thing I can do is I'm taking those two notes on top of here, which form an interval. That's an interval of a major third. And that's an interval of a minor third. And I am inverting those, which means I am either moving the bottom note 1 octave higher or moving the top note 1 octave lower. Okay? Can I do that? Is there any way to do that? Yes, I like to move my a few things around the fretboard, but it is totally possible, doable, in fact, even quite obvious to do. Okay? So, and how will it look like? It will look this way. I will have, I'll move these again a little bit around. So it's going to be 8, it's going to be 7, it's going to be 5. Okay. And I'm going to clarify in a second. It's going to be 3, going to be 5, this is going to be 4. That would be one possible way of playing this. And again, C, G, C, C, G. Here, my notes are C, C, E, C, C, E. Here, my notes are C, E, C. So I effectively inverted this interval, moving the top note down an octave, and the sound is this. Rather than it became. Here I did the same to this chord. Here the notes are G, B, D. Here the notes are G, D, B. I kept the bass the same, I kept this note the same, and I took the top note and lowered down an octave, effectively inverting this interval. And the way it sounds is this. So my original little piece of music was this. And my new piece of music that I obtained by inverting the top 2 notes of every chord will sound this way. Slightly different. It's still the same chord progression, but the voicing of the chord slightly changes. it's a variation. It's not a great variation. It's not. I'm not gonna write the Metropolitan Orchestra to play this newfangled piece of mine, okay? Because it's fairly basic, okay? It's not but it's a variation, and it allowed me to get some extra mileage of a very simple idea. We learn inversion not because we just want to put a lot of numbers around and understand and all that, this mathematic thing. It's because whenever you have some intervals in your piece of music, and you have intervals all the time in your piece of music, every time you play a chord, you have several intervals, you want to learn how to switch them up and down, so invert, moving the notes up and down and changing the order of those notes, because you can have the very same chord progression, even the very same melodies as before, but now, rather than being on top, the melodies in between the chord and you have something else on top. And so you have the same music, but different, which is what a variation is. And so maybe you can write the second verse of your song, or you can write the chorus of your song, or you can write another part of your song, so that it sounds similar to what you had before, but not exactly the same, so it's not just a repetition. Okay, in fact, at the beginning, we didn't talk about interval inversion. Historically, music speaking, we're talking about melody inversion. You were seeing this 5-3 here, like this, as a little melody, and this is another little melody, this 5-4, and you were inverting the melody. You had this melody on top, and now this melody is in between, and you had the melody in between, and now you have this melody on top. That's the way that we're thinking, okay? So that's why we invert. The other question was why we need to subtract the interval from 9. So let me explain what this is all about. The intervals we had right now are intervals of a third, one major and one minor. When we invert them, they become an interval of a sixth. Okay, example, from C to E, it's an interval of a third, major third. From E up to the next C, it's an interval of a minor sixth. So from C to E, major third. From this E to the next C, minor sixth. You find this number by taking 9 and subtracting this number here, and you find 6. So you know that the inversion of a third is always going to be a sixth. The inversion of a sixth is always going to be a third, because 9 minus 6 is always 3. And so on and so forth. The inversion of a second is going to be a seventh, because 9 minus 2 is 7, and so on and so forth. The question is why 9 and not 8? That's a fantastically good question, and it's explained because our system is very cumbersome. Because let's make this example here, and let's write all the notes in the C major scale so we see what's going on. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The interval between C and E is called a third, because if you count all the notes involved, there are 3 notes. 1, 2, and 3, C, D, and E. 3 notes, so it's the interval of a third in this scale. The interval between E and C, it's an interval of a sixth, because if you count all the notes involved, you count E1, F2, G3, A4, B5, C6. So it's an interval of a sixth. That's how we define the numbers of the interval. It's a very inconvenient way, because as you notice, we just counted E twice. We counted E in the 3, in the third, and we counted E in the sixth. We also counted C twice. So there are 7 notes in this scale, C, D, F, G, A, B, but we count E twice and we count C twice. So if we didn't do that, we should subtract the number from 7. But since we count E twice and C twice, we need to get 7 plus 2, 9, and then we subtract that number from 9, which is honestly a very embarrassing thing that we have this thing, because every time I explain it, it sounds so stupid, okay, but that's the system we are left with. Okay, and since everybody is so very used to use the term third, sixth octave and all this kind of thing, I mean, even the octave is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's because you're counting the C twice. Okay, so even octave, whatever, it's what it is. But I mean, everybody uses this right now. Every single musician has learned this. it's impossible now to change the system, honestly. So you just need to get used to it and its idiosyncrasies because it's a bit meh, again, cumbersome. Now, music theory is full of those little problems, okay? Because the system was invented in the span of centuries by people with big wigs, okay, who did not talk with each other because there wasn't the internet, okay, and they could barely send snail mail to each other, and they were talking in different languages, and then sometimes they didn't even want to talk with each other because honestly, seriously, you really think the Italians were talking with the Germans and were talking with the French? Those guys could not see each other. Everybody wanted to have their own theory, okay, and be the right one about that. So the system we have is a hodgepodge of different things, all put together, okay, and in a strange way. There are some countries where there is B. B indicates, if I remember correctly, B flat, what we could call B flat, and they use H for the natural B, or vice versa, I never remember. There are countries like Italy, where I come from, where we don't use the letter, we use do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, or do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, or the Latin, we use ut, re, mi, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, so we can't even agree on the name of notes, guys. Okay, we can't even agree on that. So of course, it's full of this problem. On the other hand, music per se, the real stuff behind all those strange things, the real thing, the real music, it's very simple, very useful, and help you become a great musician and write great music. So if you want to learn that and avoid all those pitfalls and learn them properly when they are to be learned properly, and learn to bypass them when you can bypass them, I have a few courses out there, and I do recommend you guys take my course, Complete Chord Mastery. Complete Chord Mastery, it's not a book. It's a complete video course that takes you from the basics up. We do everything you need to know about harmony and chords on your guitar. All the theory is done straight on the fretboard. There is no theory for the sake of theory here. Everything is immediately practical, and everything is developed through exercises, so you know how to apply these immediately on your guitar. If you have just a minute, click on the link on the top right to check out Complete Chord Mastery. If you like this video, smash on that like button and don't forget to subscribe and click on notification, otherwise YouTube will not let you know when I put up a new video. And if you have any comment, feedback, suggestions, write them down in the comment. I enjoy reading from you, and I make videos on your suggestions. This is Tommaso Zilio of musictheoryforguitar.com, and until next time, enjoy!